In the tranquil town of San Angelo, Texas, the sun set each evening over vast fields, casting long shadows that danced gracefully on the ground. Families enjoyed the warmth of their homes, laughter echoing through the streets. But beneath the calm surface of this idyllic community, something sinister was brewing, a tale of ambition, love, and betrayal that would soon unravel, dragging everyone into its dark depths. At the center of this gripping story was Laura Green, a well-regarded animal behaviorist. Known for her kindness and dedication, Laura had always poured her heart into her work, helping lost pets find their way home. She was admired by her friends and family for her nurturing spirit. Beside her stood David North, a loyal soldier admired for his bravery. Together, they appeared to be a perfect match, complementing each other's strengths, but behind closed doors, cracks were beginning to show. Although David and Laura shared a loving facade, whispers of discontent crept into their lives. Friends noticed subtle changes, a slight sadness behind Laura's bright smile, David's growing detachment from family events. Yet no one could have predicted the storm that was brewing, a tumultuous clash of dreams and reality that would soon spiral into a nightmare. On a seemingly normal evening in March 2021, David vanished without a trace. He had gone out for a drive to clear his head after an argument with Laura. When hours turned into days without word, panic seeped into the hearts of those who loved him. What could have happened to him? Laura's worry turned into despair as she realized the gravity of the situation. David was missing. As authorities kicked off their investigation, the local community rallied around Laura, offering prayers and support. Search parties combed the surrounding areas, scouring the fields and forests. But David remained elusive. The more time that passed, the heavier the air became with unanswered questions. Where was David? Was he in trouble? Did he want to disappear? With each day of silence, doubts began to fester. Laura's calm demeanor amidst the crisis struck investigators as suspicious. While concerned, spouses typically exhibited frantic behavior. Laura seemed eerily composed. Friends and family began to whisper among themselves, questioning whether the perfect life they believed Laura and David shared was merely a mask, hiding a darker truth. As detectives delved deeper, they uncovered secrets that Laura had kept hidden. Text messages between Laura and an unknown friend suggested an emotional affair. The detectives realized they were no longer just searching for a missing person. They were unraveling a tangled web of lies and betrayal that could lead them to the truth about what happened to David. On March 19th, the investigation reached a critical point. A remote area was discovered that had not yet been searched, a deserted well deep in the outskirts of town. As investigators approached, tension hung thick in the air. The reality of what lay beneath could soon shake the foundations of the community and reveal Laura's buried secrets. As authorities examined the well, a chilling discovery was made. They unearthed items linked to David, and the grim reality dawned on everyone involved. The hope of finding him alive was slipping away. With each passing moment, the fear grew that a tragic end had come to David's life. But what had caused this devastating fate? The mystery deepened. Laura stood by, facing the storm of emotions sweeping through her. Was she a victim or a perpetrator? The weight of uncertainty pressed down on her chest, making it hard to breathe. How could she explain what had happened to the love of her life? The longer David was missing, the more isolated she felt, as if the entire town were conspiring against her. As the investigation deepened, questions swirled around Laura. Why did she seem so calm? What role had she played, if any, in David's disappearance? Friends started stepping forward to share their thoughts. They spoke of arguments they had witnessed, tension, and unresolved issues that hung in the air. This was not the picture of a happy couple, it was a montage of struggle and heartache. It wasn't long before the investigation reached a turning point. Evidence began to surface that suggested David's disappearance was more than just an impulse. With the community gripped by fear and suspicion, detectives honed in on Laura, determined to uncover the whole story. The narrative was shifting, and Laura's world was about to implode. As the investigation unraveled the threads of deception, authorities took a shocking step. Laura was arrested. The news sent shockwaves through the community. Could the caring woman everyone admired be capable of something so horrific? Laura maintained her innocence, claiming she had nothing to do with her husband's disappearance, but as the evidence mounted, her story began to unravel. Neighbors couldn't believe the accusations against Laura. She was the woman who had always cared for animals, a loving mother to her children. But the discovery of blood-stained evidence brought home the gravity of the situation. Instead of sympathy, fear, and mistrust began to take root in the hearts of those who once supported her. What if Laura wasn't who she seemed? As David's family grieved, a gulf opened between them and Laura. She was no longer just a daughter-in-law. She had become a suspect in a harrowing tale. Friends of Laura began to turn away, questioning whether their trust in her had been misplaced. As the walls closed in, she grappled with her new reality, desperately trying to piece together a defense. When the trial began, the courtroom buzzed with anticipation. Would the truth finally be revealed? Laura's heart raced as she faced both her accusers and supporters. The tension crackled in the air. Jurors listened attentively as both sides presented their cases. It was a fight for justice and a desperate plea for understanding. Friends and family were in attendance, their faces betraying a whirlwind of emotions. Laura's parents looked devastated, while David's family displayed a stoic anger. Each witness called to the stand painted a vivid picture of a marriage that had lost its way, of a woman trapped beneath her aspirations. Evidence that once seemed trivial now carried the weight of a broken heart. Throughout the trial, the unfolding drama revealed the complex layers of their relationship. Tension from years of unspoken words and unmet expectations reached a boiling point. With every testimony, the spectators leaned closer, drawn into the emotional roller coaster that neither Laura nor David had anticipated. Finally, the day arrived when the verdict was to be read. The courtroom fell into an uneasy silence as everyone held their breath. Had justice been served, or was another life about to be shattered? Laura waited anxiously, her heart pounding. The gavel struck, and the judge announced the decision that would change everything forever. As the verdict echoed in the courtroom, the weight of consequence descended upon Laura. The reality of her situation hit hard. While her life spun out of control, David's family was left grappling with a loss they could never recover from. The guilty verdict underscored the tragic end to dreams once filled with love and possibility. In the months that followed, Laura reflected on the choices that landed her in that courtroom. Regret mingled with defiance as she pleaded her case. Would she ever be able to say her side of the story? The silence that hung around her felt suffocating. Could she ever break free from the shadows of her past? Her heart ached for the life she had lost. As the dust began to settle, the community faced the aftermath of a tragedy that touched their hearts. Friends, neighbors, and families were left to pick up the pieces, uncertain of how to support one another after such betrayal. San Angelo would never be the same. The whispers of the past continued to haunt those who knew David and Laura. In the years that passed, attempts to rebuild shattered lives began. For David's family, healing required time and grace. They honored his memory while grappling with the pain of loss. For Laura, confined by the consequences of her choices, the path to forgiveness seemed unattainable. Each day, she pondered how she could reclaim her identity in a world that saw her as a monster. Laura sought redemption in the only way she knew how, through reflection, therapy, and a longing to understand the roots of her destructive decisions. The journey was not easy, and the support of others often felt out of reach. But amid the despair, she held on to a glimmer of hope that perhaps one day she could find a way to make amends, even in the eyes of those she had hurt the most. Laura's story is ultimately one of choices, those made in moments of desperation and the repercussions that followed. The whispers in the shadows of San Angelo served as constant reminders that life can take unexpected turns. She learned that every action has consequences, and the shadowy echoes of her decisions would follow her long after the courtroom was quiet. Despite the past's grip, Laura dared to envision a different future. She focused on rebuilding her life behind bars, channeling her energy into helping others who found themselves in similar situations. The hope of helping others escape from their shadows became her lifeline, guiding her toward a more meaningful existence, one day at a time. Meanwhile, San Angelo slowly began to heal, supporting each other through the collective trauma. Community gatherings, memorials for David, and workshops on mental health became avenues for transformation. They confronted the darkness together, reminding one another that even in the face of despair, unity and understanding could illuminate the path forward. As years passed, residents of San Angelo reflected on the profound lessons learned from this tragedy. They recognized that love, when poisoned by ambition and discontent, could lead to devastating consequences. Yet from those ashes, new relationships blossomed, emphasizing the importance of communication and vulnerability. In time, acceptance began to set in, for Laura, for David's family, and for the community. Forgiveness, they realized, was a journey rather than a destination. They sought to honor David's legacy through acts of kindness, ensuring that his memory would endure as a beacon of hope for others facing darkness. In the end, the tale of Laura Green and David North became a haunting reminder that every life is shaped by the choices we make. The whispers in the shadows of San Angelo spoke of caution, love, and the raw reality of human emotion. As the sun sets over the fields, the lessons learned would echo through the generations, illuminating the path toward understanding, healing, and ultimately, redemption. As time progressed in the aftermath of David's disappearance, new evidence emerged that caught the attention of investigators. A tip came in from a local resident who had found strange items buried in their backyard. Among the findings were pieces of David's clothing, worn and tattered, raising alarm bells in the minds of law enforcement. Suddenly, the case, once thought to be settled, reopened a Pandora's box of questions. Had someone else been involved in David's fate, or were they merely remnants of a life that had turned dark? Laura watched in horror as news coverage of the new evidence escalated, painting her in an increasingly negative light. The public opinion she had once enjoyed began to fracture, leading to heated debates on social media and in community gatherings. Laura was desperate to showcase her innocence, yet the evidence painted a different picture. It seemed that the closer investigators got to the truth, the murkier the waters became, and she felt trapped in a web of both reality and perception. In her solitude, Laura sought allies amongst those who had once supported her. She reached out to close friends, individuals she had shared laughter and tears with, hoping they would stand by her in her darkest times. Some remained loyal, convinced of her innocence. Others distanced themselves, doubting her account of the events. The feeling of betrayal dug deep, adding layers of sorrow and isolation to Laura's already tumultuous situation. She wondered if she would ever return to the life she once knew. Meanwhile, David's family struggled with their grief while facing the harsh realities of Laura's situation. They sought closure, but with new evidence surfacing, it felt like they were stuck in limbo. David's sister often found herself flooded with memories of laughter and love, contrasting starkly with the loss they were enduring. On weekends, she would visit memorials organized in David's honor, each flower placed, each candle lit, a tribute to their beloved brother. The community came together, united in their sorrow, but also transformed by the desire to learn from this tragedy. As Steve, David's closest friend, attended memorial services, he felt the weight of the loss. The impact of David's absence reverberated throughout their social circle, challenging their understanding of friendship and loyalty. To cope, Steve galvanized their group, encouraging reflective gatherings where they could share memories of David, helping them process their grief through celebration rather than dwelling solely on departure. Despite attempts to move forward, Laura's story began to show signs of wear. Investigators meticulously dissected every detail she provided, looking for inconsistencies. It was during an intense interrogation that detectives uncovered discrepancies in her timeline, a time when she claimed to be at a charity event while David was missing. An alibi that was once watertight now felt like a fragile vase. teetering on the edges of a precipice. While investigators pursued Laura, they also cast a wider net, examining local surveillance footage and dug deeper into David's life prior to his disappearance. This vast outreach eventually led them to a convenience store where David had been spotted just hours before he went missing. He appeared distressed, his face telling a story that his lips could not. This revelation reignited the investigation and cast further doubt on Laura's version of events, suggesting that perhaps David had been in this predicament due to external forces rather than internal family struggles. A breakthrough came when David's friend, Steve, decided to conduct his own investigation. He started to talk to people in the community about their impressions of Laura and David's last days together. It was during these conversations that Steve stumbled upon an unexpected new ally, an old acquaintance from David's military past, a man with insights that could change everything. This ally had seen subtle changes in David before his disappearance, suspecting that outside pressures were tugging at him, a haunting suspicion that only fueled Steve's determination to uncover the truth. Laura's world was further complicated when she received a cryptic message. A stranger claimed to have information about David's disappearance, but warned her to tread carefully. Curiosity mixed with fear as she considered the implications of this contact. Was this someone trying to manipulate the situation, or did they hold the key to unraveling the mystery? Torn between hope and trepidation, Laura found herself fighting against invisible forces determined to pull her back into darkness. Feeling the pressure mounting, Laura decided to take matters into her own hands. She reached out to the anonymous tipster, setting up a meeting in an old diner at the edge of town. The air was electric with tension as she entered, scanning the room for someone who might know more than they should. Time felt like it was slipping away as she awaited the crushing weight of truth or a new layer of deception that could further entangle her fate. The meeting took a shocking turn. The tipster claimed to know not just what happened to David, but also about Laura's life, the intricacies of their relationship, the struggles she faced, and the turmoil she kept hidden. As he spoke, Laura felt a mix of vulnerability and anger. He was exposing her emotional wounds while offering a lifeline. This stranger's intimate knowledge knocked her off balance, challenging her perception of control over her narrative. In the following days, Laura wrestled with what she had learned. The stranger had planted seeds of doubt and had spoken of all the choices that had led her to this moment. Her thoughts began to spiral, dredging up fears that had been buried since David's disappearance. With these resurfacing memories, Laura was forced to confront the darkest corners of her heart, the very choices that had led to irreversible consequences, pushing her to question whether she could confront the person she had become. With each passing day, Laura committed to reclaiming her voice. She began journaling meticulously, documenting her feelings, frustrations, and a narrative that sought to reclaim her identity. The pages filled quickly with raw emotions, thoughts wrestling between guilt and the desire for redemption. She dedicated herself to her children's well-being and sought therapy, which provided her with tools to process her regrets. Each therapy session acted as a stepping stone on the winding path toward understanding her past. Yet, shadows of fear continued to loom. Local media coverage reinvigorated scrutiny into the case, and Laura could feel the town's collective gaze upon her, a web of judgment that was both suffocating and isolating. With the specter of public opinion buzzing around her, she felt as though she were running a marathon on a track of quicksand. Each day was a fight for her sanity, as the need to prove herself gnawed at her consciousness. In an effort to find perspective, Laura found solace in nature. She began taking long walks in the nearby park, drawing strength from the beauty of the natural world. As she inhaled the crisp air and listened to the rustling leaves, she felt a flicker of hope igniting within her. Nature became her refuge, a safe space where she could breathe, ponder, and momentarily escape the chaos of life swirling around her. As the first anniversary of David's disappearance approached, Laura asked to speak at the memorial organized by his family. Facing the gathering of their friends and supporters, she stood before them with a heart full of courage. Addressing the crowd, she shared her memories of David, the laughter they shared, the dreams they built, and the kindness he represented. She spoke of her regret for not recognizing the signs of his struggles sooner. It was a heartfelt moment of clarity and vulnerability, where she hoped to both honor him and find personal release. The evening turned into a poignant reminder of shared grief as David's sister confronted Laura afterward. Their conversation was raw, but necessary, a bridge slowly being built through pain and understanding. They discussed David's battle with internal demons and their mutual love for him. Their dialogue was a blend of sorrow and healing, shedding light on the shadows of doubt that had surrounded their lives. Months later, Laura was invited to speak at a community gathering focused on mental health and support systems for families in grief. Accepting the invitation marked a new chapter in her life. She spoke passionately about the dangers of silence in relationships, the importance of communication, and how easily love could be overshadowed by misunderstandings. Her voice resonated with hope, encouraging others to seek help, to speak up, and to connect with those they loved. Laura's newfound purpose brought unexpected connections with others who had faced similar tragedies. They shared their stories, a tapestry of sorrow, but also resilience. Together, they formed a support network for families struggling with grief, mental health, and the complex emotions that weave through relationships. Laura finally felt empowered, working alongside others who cherished the memory of their loved ones. It was a testament to healing, symbolizing how love could persist even in absence. As another anniversary approached, the community marked the day differently than before. Instead of simply mourning David, they hosted a celebration of life, a festival filled with stories, memories, and laughter echoing in the air. Laura stood side by side with David's family, both acknowledging that while heartbreak could never truly be erased, love could reshape their memories into a source of strength. The day of grief transformed into a day of gratitude, highlighting the power of unity in healing. Families and friends shared their stories, and as Laura spoke, she felt a wave of acceptance wash over her. The weight she had carried for so long started to lift as she realized forgiveness did not absolve mistakes, but could pave the way for a brighter future. After the event, Laura returned home, standing in front of her mirror. She gazed into her reflection and saw a woman once trapped in shadows, now emerging into the light. She had transformed, finding strength through vulnerability, connection, and the willingness to embrace her past. It was a gradual journey towards self-love, and although the road ahead remained uncertain, she was determined to navigate it with courage. As she looked to the future, Laura envisioned a life filled with purpose. She began writing a memoir, a tribute to David, a lesson in love, loss, and the complexity of human emotions. Through her words, she aimed to reach others who might be struggling, to reassure them that they were not alone. Even in the depths of despair, moments of light could emerge. Every so often, Laura took the time to visit David's resting place, sharing her thoughts and prayers within the serene stillness. Here, in the quiet moments, she felt closer to him than ever. While the world outside buzzed with complexity, this was their space, one where she could reflect on how love, despite its trials, persevered. With each passing season, Laura grew, embracing both her past and her present. The legacy she created in honor of David remained a powerful reminder of resilience. The community continued to celebrate him. His memory served as a beacon of hope, a promise that love could tackle even the darkest corners of life. In her heart, Laura held a deep-seated belief that every story is a tapestry woven from choices, love, and loss. Though she had navigated through storms, she learned that redemption was possible through understanding and connection. As she stepped into a new chapter, she knew she carried David's spirit within her, a guiding force reminding her that love, even when twisted by tragedy, can lead to healing. The echoes of their shared experiences rippled through San Angelo, where life continued amidst the specters of past heartaches. Laura had finally embraced her future, fortified by the belief that, even in the shadows, the light of love would guide her family and community toward hope.